What's up, everybody? It's Slender, and today I'm going to give you guys my first impression of the game that's coming to the West in February, Lost Ark. What is Lost Ark? Well, it's a South Korean MMO ARPG, and for those of you that don't know, an ARPG is a game like Diablo, Path of Exile. It's an action role-playing game. It even has some elements of games like World of Warcraft. Currently, it's available in Japan, South Korea, and Russia, but it's making its way, like I said, over to the West with the help of Amazon Game Studios in February. There's dungeons, there's raids, there's arena-like PvP, and really tons of stuff to do to keep you busy. Now, I've only had a couple hundred hours into the game and only stopped playing New World when it came out. So this is not going to be like a really in-depth review of the game, which I will most definitely be doing once I reach the level cap, participate in PvP, and have at least, I don't know, 100, at least 1,000 plus solid hours into the game. This will be just my initial look at the game and my 2 cents as to whether or not I think you guys should take the time to actually play this game. So without further ado, let's go. All right, so I want to go over the good stuff and then we'll get to the bad. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, right now it looks like there's a lot more good than there is bad, but it does have some problems. So I'm going to start with the classes. So there's actually 7 main classes to choose from, but the unique thing about this game is there's subclasses with each class. So some classes have, like the warrior has 3 or 4 subclasses that you can choose from, and some only have 2 or 3. There's a couple classes that just have 1 subclass, which means they don't even have a subclass altogether. Once you pick that class, that's it, you're done. But given all that information, there's actually a total of 21 classes that you can choose from because each subclass is vastly different from the others. So if you're playing a warrior, there's 3 or 4 different subclasses to choose from, and each one has different abilities, a different look, a different feel, a different play style, and just a different class altogether. So I'm saying it's got at least 21 classes to choose from. And I think that's really, really cool. The only thing that kind of sucks about it is once you choose your subclass, which you choose right away, whether you want to be, like for an example, the assassin. There's the Reaper subclass, there's a demonic subclass, and I think the other one's called the Blade. And again, they're all way different from each other. But once you choose that subclass, that's it. You're locked in, and you're going to play that subclass for the remainder of the game. So if you want to pick something else or change specs, you can't really do that. You're going to have to re-roll a new character, which at the same time gives you a lot of play value, or replay value rather. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the character customization. This game, for what it is, actually has a pretty good in-depth character customization. I mean, it's much better than most of the recent games that I've played, but at the same time, I've seen better character customization in other games as well. This isn't the amazing, best character customization, but it's pretty damn good. You can change your face, you can change your hair. They've got multiple hair colors you can choose from, meaning you can pick 2 different colors with the hair. You can have one part like blue, one part red, or whatever. There's a lot of different possibilities. You can customize the face. There's preset faces that you can choose from, or you can start from scratch and make your own face. You could change the eyes, the nose, the ears, the chin, the jaw, everything that you would expect in a pretty decent, solid character customization. And then, of course, there's always the shine that you can add, or the gloss to the hair, which is always weird, but I don't know, it's okay. There's tattoos, there's stickers, you can move the location of the tattoos. There's a lot of customization that you can do for both the male and the female characters. The one thing that you can't change, that I kind of wish you could, is the size of the character. You can't make them short or tall, you can't make them thin or wide, you can't change, the size of the arms and make really, really, really wonky looking characters like you can in Ark. But yeah, for a game like this, pretty solid character customization. I really like it. You're not going to look the same as anybody else. The armor may look the same, but as far as your face and the character and the hair, it's going to look different. So I think that's pretty cool. Really solid character customization for an ARPG. Now, the part that really shines in this game, that I think anyway, are the abilities for all the classes. So I mentioned before that there's 21 total classes. In my opinion, there's 7 main classes, but 21 total subclasses within those classes. So each one of those subclasses has its own set of abilities. So far, it looks like the characters have up to 20 to maybe 25 different abilities that you can learn. And the really cool thing about this and the way they do it in this game is each ability, instead of talent trees, each ability has its own talent tree. There's several different options and ways to augment each one of those 20 to 25 abilities, leaving you countless different ways to customize your class, your play style, the different abilities you want to choose. For example, if you have like the warrior has an ability where you can take your hammer and just smash it in the ground. It causes this like gravitational eruption, if you will, and you can further augment that ability to do different things or different effects, you know, higher crit chance, more damage, or just add another special effect at the end of the ability like a secondary eruption and stuff like that. It's really, really neat. Another good example is there's a lot of abilities in here that you can either hold down and channel the abilities. There's places where if you channel for so long, there's a sweet spot where you can let go, and you know the ability has an added effect if you let go at the right time. And there's, you know, you can even augment those kinds of things even further. And it looks like there's maybe 6 to 7, maybe 8 different ways to augment or change each one of your 20 to 25 abilities. So lots and lots and lots of different variations, different ways of customizing your in-game abilities. And on top of that, you can actually slot 8 different abilities for each character instead of just having 3 or 4, you know, that are active all the time. So a lot of customization, a lot of ways to really, you know, try different types of play styles, you know, depending on what you like and how you like to play. And then the last thing I want to mention about the abilities is each character, each subclass, if you will, has a special mechanic that you can utilize, whether it's building up certain amount of charges and then you can expend them for a really powerful attack, or there's, you know, for example, the gunner has his special mechanic is the fact that he's got 3 different weapons, and you could choose from each one of those weapons. You could swap weapons, and then that opens up 4 or 8 different abilities just based on the weapon that you have. So lots of really cool stuff, unique play styles, unique things that I really don't see in a lot of games like this. And it's just, you know, it's kind of refreshing. You know, there's a lot of new stuff that I haven't seen before that I really, really enjoy. I think the combat really shines in this game. And if you guys want, I actually did a bunch of videos, not a super in-depth guide on the abilities, but I go through each character's entire skill set that they allow us to use in the preview. And that's another great thing about the game is they let you preview the class, try out the different abilities before you actually lock yourself in and decide to play that character. Now, I want to talk about the combat in this game because that's another area where this game really shines and I really enjoy it. It is so much fun. The combat is, I'm just going to say it, it's amazing. It really is. It's fun, it's engaging, the abilities are super impactful. You really feel like you're just crushing these guys and destroying these monsters. Parts go flying everywhere. There's blood, there's guts. It's amazing. I love it. I can't say enough how much fun the combat in Lost Ark really is. And the AoE is amazing. If you want a game where you could just burn down waves of enemies with one super powerful skill or several, I mean, this is it. You just burn through packs of enemies with magic, with your hammers, with your great axe. It is so much fun. The combat in this game is really top notch and it's fluid. It works well. It's not wonky. It's not clunky. It's just so fluid and smooth. They did a really good job with the combat in this game. Now, as far as the graphics go in this game, remember, this is an ARPG, so I wasn't expecting the best graphics, but after I seen some videos and some cinematics, I was like, wow, I gotta check this game out. And I'll tell you what, the graphics are solid. They're really good for an ARPG. You know, they don't look as good as, you know, some of the best games out there. Obviously, it is, you know, a different type of game. But for that type of game that it is, the graphics are really, really good. I really like them. The overall design of the game is great. The different worlds, the different maps, you know, no two maps as far as I've seen so far look the same. Every time you go to a new place, it looks different. It has a different feel. The armor looks great. The weapons look amazing. The abilities and the special effects are top notch for a game like this. The graphics are really, really solid. Now, this isn't a huge selling point for this game, but it is pretty cool. There's actually a photo mode where you can make, screenshots. If you find a really cool place or you're fighting a really cool boss, you can go into photo mode. You could change the angle, you could zoom in and out, you can change the perspective. And I think more games really need something like this. One game that I played that had an amazing photo mode was, oh my gosh, No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky had a great photo mode, and this game is not too bad. Another one is Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption had an amazing photo mode. This game is not even close to having that kind of quality of photo mode, but it is there and I appreciate it. I love making new screenshots. I use them for my thumbnails. I use them for my backgrounds. It's a lot of fun. And at least the game has the option to do something like that. If New World had something like that, that would be amazing. Inventory space. Inventory space has been a pretty hot topic for me, myself personally. If the game doesn't have good inventory space, or you're constantly having to throw items out, you're constantly having to salvage or destroy items and not really get much benefit from them. I won't name any recent games, but you know what I'm talking about. I take points away for that kind of stuff. Inventory space is huge. I'm going to give you an example of a game that was really fun for a minute, but the inventory management and the inventory space and storage space in general was absolutely terrible. And that is Blessed Unleashed. Blessed Unleashed had such a good idea with their world bosses and things like that, but as far as the inventory space, I stopped playing that game because of the inventory space and because New World came out. I'm not gonna lie, but yes, the inventory space really put me off, and this game does it pretty well. Again, I haven't gone to the end of the game. I haven't even played any of the end game content. I haven't even got the PvP. So again, this is not an in-depth review, guys. This is just my opinion, and the inventory space seems to not be a problem right now, and it seems to be pretty decent. So, thumbs up for the inventory space. Another really cool feature that the game has that I haven't seen a single game with something like this. It's actually a item codex. And just like it sounds, it's just basically a encyclopedia of every weapon, drop, piece of armor, potion, consumables, amulets, ring, whatever there is in the game that you can equip. It is in this item codex. You can look it up. You can look up legendary gear. You can look up legendary weapons. You can see the things that you want to kind of strive for, and maybe even look at what you want to have in your future builds. It's a really, really cool feature. Again, not a huge thing. It's just a really good idea, and I wish more games had this in it as well. The cash shop. This game does have a cash shop. Again, this is another thing that I really can't rate the game on, and partly because of the language barrier. This is in Russian. I have a patch that changes everything from Russian to English, but the one thing that doesn't change is the PvP shop, the events, the attendance stuff. I can't really see what's going on in the cash shop, but so far you can get mounts, and these mounts are crazy. They look so cool. I can't wait. As soon as this comes out to the West, I'm going to be all over it. I'm afraid of how much money I'm going to spend on the cash shop. But with that being said, the cash shop doesn't look like it's pay to win or pay to have an advantage over other players. It looks mostly cosmetic. There might be some experience boosters from what I've read, because I have done some research on this as far as the cash shop. Somebody did a really big review of nothing but the cash shop, and this guy had so much information, compiled so much stuff into one big review on the cash shop alone, and it seems to be maybe a small percentage, tiny percentage of pay to win, which I don't like, but I've seen a lot worse. So I'm not going to take too many points away for the cash shop. Now I want to talk about mounts. Mounts, and more mounts. Yes, some games need mounts, some games don't need mounts. This particular game, I don't think it really needs mounts, but the mounts are really cool. You saw some of the footage in the cash shop. You start out with the free horse. There's also pets in the game. There's pets and mounts, so you have little pets, little bunny rabbits, different creatures that can run around and get your loot. You see a lot of this stuff in Korean games, but it's something I like. I don't mind it. If I can have a little critter running around picking up all my loot, that's not a bad thing. It would be a bad thing if you had to pay real money to get it, but that's not the case. You get it right away. It's free. The picking up the items doesn't cost anything. There's other features I think that you can pay for to, make it easier in the game, not necessarily an advantage over anybody else, but just to make, quality of life improvements and stuff like that. So as far as mounts and pets, they are in the game. They look really good. Some of these mounts are absolutely stunning. Now, this isn't something that a lot of people really focus on when doing reviews, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. The map and the mini-map. The map and mini-map, pretty solid. Nothing crazy. They're not bad. They're easy to read, easy to follow along, and do the quests. So the map and the mini-map, not a bad implementation. Everything looks good, easy to read. So I'm going to give them points for the map. And probably the one thing that you guys have been waiting for is the PvP. I haven't had a chance to test the PvP. I was just about to get there on my other account. I stopped playing. I started playing New World. This is the Russian client. I couldn't get my old account back. I had to create a new one, and that's the one I'm using to make these videos. So from what I've seen in the PvP, so don't take this with a grain of salt. The PvP looks phenomenal. It looks very, very fun. I wish I would have got some more playtime in. I'm currently building my way back up to the PvP, so I will include my thoughts on the PvP in the in-depth full guide when it comes out. But for now, the PvP, from what I've heard, from what I've read, from what I've seen, looks really, really good and a lot of fun. Now, as far as the quests go, the quests aren't the greatest, but they're straightforward. They don't have you running from one spot on the map like 2 hours away to just turn in a little thing and then having to run all the way back. It's nothing like that. The quests are laid out. They're easy to tell what to do, easy to tell where to go. The quest tracker's fine, doesn't cause any problems, doesn't cause any confusion. Overall, the quests, the way they are laid out, it's okay. It's not amazing. It's like any other MMO. The quests do get kind of stale after a while, but it is what it is. As far as the layout of the quest and the what's the word I'm looking for? Logistics and figuring out where to go, it's pretty good, pretty solid. And one more thing about the quest that I find kind of cool, kind of, interesting, kind of different, is it's one of those games where you can actually, there's different options to choose from. So if you're going to complete a quest, you can choose, do you want to do this or do you want to do it this way? Do you want to be good? Do you want to be bad? I don't know how much relevance it's really going to have in the story and the progression in the game and whether you're going to start being an evil person or a nice person, but it is cool to have some of those choices. It keeps you engaged, not super immersive, but it is nice that they have kind of like a choose your own adventure. If you ever read those Goosebump books back in the day, for example, there was one part where, this guy's about to fall over this ledge and you can either help him or you could just ignore him. Of course, I chose to ignore him and it was pretty funny, so I got a kick out of that. It's, kind of a cool little feature. So this game has a lot of different little mini events and things that, reward you with different items for doing certain things, when it's Christmas, when it's Halloween, different things like that. There's a lot of events that they do, and I think that really takes away from a lot of the monotony that some of these games have. For example, there's an attendance reward. So every time you log in, consecutive logins, consecutive days that you play the game, you get these attendance rewards, and I think that's really cool. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It keeps me coming back. Yes, it's kind of a bait tactic to keep you engaged and keep you playing the game. But at the same time, I don't consider that a negative thing. I think it's fun. I think it adds another element of fun and something to look forward to. So I think that's pretty cool. I wish more games had stuff like that. But, I don't think it's going to make or break the game. But it is pretty neat to have, that feature. Now onto the dungeons. I've only been in about maybe 20 or 30 dungeons, maybe a little bit more. And so far, they are fun. There's boss fights at the end, so it is pretty cool. The dungeons look kind of different. Some of them look the same. But one really cool thing about the dungeons that I thought was really awesome is there's hidden dungeons in the different maps. And to find those hidden dungeons, you actually have to find the map for that dungeon before they'll even show up. You actually have to look at the map, figure out where you're at, figure out where the spot on the map is, run to that location, and then it will give you the prompt to enter the dungeon. So there's regular dungeons, there's treasure map dungeons, there's going to be raids in the end. From what I've seen, the raids look really, really cool. And right now the dungeons are pretty easy, but I've read that they get a lot harder towards the end. I can't wait to do an in-depth review on this game when I have more hours in. But right now, the dungeons are pretty cool, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of boss fights. Now, something that I'm going to start including in all of my reviews, something that I don't really see a lot, is what I'm going to be calling stability. Stability is how polished is the game? How many bugs are in the game? Are these bugs game breaking? Are there so many bugs and glitches that it's just unplayable or just an unpleasant experience for the players? In this game, this is another way or another area where the game really shines. It is super well polished. Everything is so fluid, the combat's great. I haven't seen a single bug yet, other than the language stuff and maybe some of the translation, but that's not anybody's fault. It's been out for quite a while, so they've had time to really polish it before they brought it to the West. I mean, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I mean, it's great for new people that are just getting into this game and just playing it for the first time. This is one thing you don't have to worry about. This game is polished. It is good to go. Huge points for that. Now we're going to get into the bad stuff. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about the quests and, the layout of the quests being good, but the quests are very boring. It seems like they're going to get really repetitive. It already has become repetitive, but again, what MMO have you played? Leave it in the comments where the quests are actually super fun and engaging. This is a thing that most MMOs struggle with, and this game is no different. I'm going to say quests are boring. Quests are boring. You just want to get through them. I don't really care too much about the story. I'm going to start paying more attention to the story because my wife thinks the story is pretty cool. So, I'm going to actually do better and try to get more involved in, the story aspects of the games because, it's a big part of the game. But so far, the quests, they could be better. But what MMO couldn't? Now, I want to talk about the UI in the game. Now, part of this is definitely the language barrier. There's some stuff that isn't either translated well with the patch that I used to translate everything to English, but the UI could be a little bit better. It's not the worst I've seen, but it can be a bit confusing. There's a lot of different, elements of the UI as far as, the different options, where to find this, where to find that. So I'm still getting used to it, but the UI could be a little bit better. It's not the worst, definitely not the worst. I've seen worse. Bless Unleashed, terrible UI, absolutely terrible. This one isn't bad, but it's not good. And the last thing I want to mention is the crafting in the game. Most MMOs that you play are going to have some sort of crafting. This one's no different. I'm going to give you guys 2 games that have absolutely brilliant crafting in the game. One of them is Final Fantasy XIV, and the other one is, you guessed it, New World. These games, crafting mechanics, there's so much into it. It's not super confusing. It's very in depth. There's a lot of different ways to go with things. There's a lot of different things to do, and the crafting in this game is it's all right. It's all right. I'm not going to give it any points for the crafting. I've definitely seen worse, but I've seen a heck of a lot better. Now, I also touched on the dungeons earlier, but I want to bring the bad part of the dungeons, to light. At first, they were really cool. They were kind of short and sweet. You kill some trash, you get to the end, it's a boss. But I do see the dungeons getting a bit stale. I've done about maybe like 30 dungeons, and they really don't seem to be that much different. There's a couple puzzles here and there. There's a couple places where you have to climb, but you just press a button. So the dungeons are so far, with the little time I spent in the game, couple 100 hours, the dungeons could be better. But there's a lot of them, so I kind of see what happened. You can only do so much. But as of right now, in the beginning, the dungeons really aren't, they're not the most fun I've had in the game. Now, this is an ARPG, so I expected this, but it's one thing that I really don't like about these types of games. Not really saying it's their fault, but the game is super linear. You go in a straight line. There's not really a lot of exploration other than the kind of dungeon maps that you get. That is a really cool part of the game that I really like, really enjoy, but it is a linear game. Yes, it is an ARPG, I understand that, but you can still have a game like this where it is more open world and there is a sense of exploration, and I'm just not feeling that with this game. So that is kind of a negative thing for me. Now, as far as, dynamic events and stuff in this game, there are a couple places where you're just, running around the map, doing your quest, turning this in, turning that in, killing these mobs, and you'll run across, some of these mobs that have indicators above their head, which mean they're like almost elites, or they're not quite world bosses, but they have more HP, they hit a little bit harder, and you get a little bit better rewards for them. I like that idea, but I wish there was more. One thing this game hasn't had so far, and again, it might be further down the road, but there's no big world bosses. I can't stress enough. If you're making a game, you want it to be more fun, you want to add a really cool element, put giant big world bosses where everybody can get together, fight them together. This is one thing that Bless Unleashed had where it just shined. It was so much fun. The game wasn't that great. The game is dead. Terrible UI, terrible inventory. But the one thing that kept me playing in that game was world bosses. New World doesn't have any world bosses. This game doesn't have any world bosses that I've seen so far. There are some bigger, mobs that you can kill, but I'm talking like, you're just out questing, then all of a sudden a rift opens up and a big giant boss comes down, and whether you're friends with this guy or friends with that guy, or you're all together, just the whole community can get together and fight these. Now, it's not really a bad thing about the game. I just wish there was something like that. I think it would really shine in this game and be really cool, but there's a lack of it. So I'm just going to mention it because you know what? I'm having a hard time finding a list of bad things about the game, so I'm just throwing that in there. Now, as far as the overall fun factor of this game, the questing, the combat, the fighting, everything combined into one, the fun factor itself, the game is a lot of fun. The only problem I see, and I'll talk about this a little bit in, the bad side of things, is it might not be as much fun after a couple months. I dated this girl one time when I was really young, before I was married. It was nothing, but I asked her because I was one of those guys that, always has to put a label on things. So I would ask her, hey, are we dating or what? She told me no. She said, we aren't going to date. We aren't going to put a label on anything until 6 months goes by. I said, 6 months? What the heck, 6 months? What's going on with 6 months? She said, that's when the crazy comes out. That's when the a-hole comes out. That's when you really start showing your true colors. That's my magic number, she said. And I was like, okay, whatever. So my magic number for games is about 2 months. If it's still interesting after 2 months, if I'm still playing this game after 2 months and still having fun, then, it gets my vote. I don't know if this is going to be one of those games. I hope it is, but I don't know. There is a possibility that it's going to be one of those games where honeymoon phase lasts about 2 weeks and then boom, you're done. Now, that wasn't the case for me. I have played this game more than 2 weeks. I played it a couple hundred hours, but we'll see. Time will tell. But as far as right now, in the early stages, it's a lot of fun. It's great fun. I mean, my kids play together. You can have multiple people in dungeons. If you're looking for a good game to play with your friends, this is definitely, this should be on your list. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So I'm going to base this on graphics, sound, combat, stability, UI, fun factor, and cash shop. So I'm going to give this game a solid 7 for the graphics. It's got great graphics for an ARPG, but at the same time, there's a lot of games that have much better graphics, but this one is a solid 7, which is a good thing. So we're going to give the graphics a 7. The sound, I really can't complain much about the sound, so I'm going to give it an 8. Only because I've played a game recently, I'm going to say it, New World, that has some of the best sound I've ever seen in a game. Red Dead Redemption 2, some of the best sound and graphics I've ever seen in a game. The graphics, the sound, it was just amazing. So I have something to reference. This game has by no means bad sound. It's just not amazing. There's no wow factor. It is what it is. As far as the combat, I'm going to give the combat a 9. This is some of the best combat I've ever played. It's fun, you can dodge, there's tons of abilities, it's fluid, it's polished, it's impactful. It is so much fun. The combat in this game is really where it's at, so I'm going to give it a solid 9, and there's no bugs that I've encountered so far. Speaking of bugs, stability. I'm going to give the stability a 10. I haven't seen a single bug, I haven't had a single disconnection, and I'm playing a game in a different country and I still have not had a single disconnect error, a login error, a queue, a bug, a quest I couldn't turn in. Everything just works and comes together so well in this game. I'm going to give it a 10. The UI. The UI is something I'm going to start adding in the reviews. I'm going to give it a 6. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. And as far as fun factor, that's going to be a solid 8. Why? Because this game is a lot of fun. This game is fun with friends. It's amazing with friends. We still haven't put the game down. The only reason I stopped playing is because New World came out and I had to play that game. I've been waiting for it. But this game, it's a lot of fun, and it's still a lot of fun. I'm going to continue playing. Obviously, I've got the Founders Pack from when it comes out in the West. I can't wait. I'm going to put so much time into this game, and I'll figure out what the fun factor is really after a couple months. But right now, I'm going to give it an 8. And then the final thing that I'm going to add is the cash shop. I've seen some terrible cash shops in some Korean games, some Chinese games, games from America. This cash shop isn't bad. It's not bad at all. In fact, I can't wait until I can actually use the cash shop and spend my hard-earned money in this game, because I'm probably going to spend a lot. I'm going to get some mounts. I'm going to get, whatever I can get my hands on, really. That's what it's all about, guys. Is it fun? And, the main point of a lot of these games is just to make your guy look badass. And I can't wait to do that in the game. Be strong, be powerful, and look cool as hell. And, the cash shop, it's gonna help with some of that. I don't think it's a bad cash shop at all. So again, gonna give it a 7. And with all this added up, the game's gonna be a solid 7.8 out of 10 for now. This is just a quick look, a first glance, my first impressions on the game. Is it fun? Yes. Is it worth the $20 or $25 for the Founders Pack? Absolutely. I've already got my money out of this game just with the couple hundred hours I've played. And it's a lot of fun. So go out there, try the game. Is it going to be the best game in the world? Probably not. But is it going to be something that's worth your time? I think so. I really do. If you guys have any questions, if you want any more, content covered, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. And I just want to thank everybody for taking your time to watch this video. Leave some comments on what you think about the game. I've already heard some good things. I've already heard some bad things, but I like hearing everything. So leave some comments. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for stopping by, and everybody have a great night. Take it easy.